The 2024 NFL Draft is absolutely stacked in many positions, including big positions of need for the New York Giants. Who stacks up at the top of the list? What is the exact order? And who will the Giants choose in the first round? Let's get into it. What is going on, guys? What is going on, 27 Squad? Welcome back into another video, and today we're going to be going over my big board for the Giants going into the first round. Now, obviously, I am not going to come up with a big board of 32 players and go down this list and talk about each and every one of them. I'm really going to go over the top 8 candidates I have for the first pick that the Giants have. I may consider doing a video later on, a couple of days from now, about players that if we trade down, we can grab up, but I'm going to be doing top 8 players that I can think of that will be worth taking at least at the 6th pick, and even if we trade up. Now, coming up with this list, you're definitely going to see a pattern. I really tried to keep position of need out of it, but considering all the amount of talent at each position and the type of players that we have, I really came to the conclusion that each position is in the same exact pecking order of the players I want and I have on my big board. So that's just it. There looks like there's a pattern, and there absolutely is a pattern, and there absolutely is an agenda. So there's no hiding it here. I'm just coming clean. Now, when you make a big board, the first thing you have to really go over is not only looking at the prospects, but going over your own positions of need and going over that the Giants clearly need these positions. The Giants' first need is at quarterback. I know we just had the Daniel Jones deal go in the last offseason, but there is a way out next year, and this would be a perfect draft in a perfect, not a perfect position, but damn near close to a perfect position to get a quarterback and groom him up for the next era if we do decide to part ways with Daniel Jones. Now, this draft top to bottom is star-studded with quarterbacks in this draft. You can easily get a blue chip prospect that's going to be a top 10 quarterback in this draft, in the top of the draft, and then you can even go towards the middle, towards the bottom of the first round and get yourself some good quality guys, even going into the second round, and may get yourself some starter level talent. Next up, we have the wide receiver position. Darius Slayton has been that guy at wide receiver for a couple of years now. I believe leading the Giants in receiving for about 4 out of the 5 years he's been here, and that it's just not good enough. He hasn't even gotten over 800 yards yet, and somehow he's led the Giants in 4 out of the 5 years he's been here. That just can't happen. The only time that hasn't happened was when Kenny Golladay led this team, and I believe he didn't even get close to 800 yards either. The Giants clearly need a true number 1 wide receiver, and this would be a perfect draft to go ahead and get that early on. Our next position of need would have to be offensive tackle. We know that, as said in previous videos, Evan Neal doesn't seem to be working out at right tackle. We're going to see what happens with our newly acquired offensive line coach, Carmen Bursillo, and see if that helps out Evan Neal in any way, shape, or form, or the entire offensive line for that matter. But offensive line, offensive tackle more specifically on that right side, is definitely a position to consider in the first round. So those are certainly the top 3 positions of need, and those are the 3 positions we will be talking about today on this big board. Now, first up is Caleb Williams. Obviously, he's top of everybody's big board. If you're in the top 10, he is the quarterback you would want in this draft. He should be the number 1 overall pick. Really, a lot of this stems on what the Chicago Bears do with the number 1 overall pick, because they could even trade down, even possibly trade down with us, or they trade down in general, and somebody grabs up Caleb Williams at that spot, and then maybe we can trade with Chicago. If Chicago is like at 2 or 3, we can trade with Chicago to get to that position instead and pick up another quarterback, when it probably wouldn't be as possible if we were trying to trade with Washington. Washington's not going to trade with us, and New England's not going to trade with us either, because they are after what we are after. If the Giants trade up, they are after a quarterback, and so are Washington and New England. Now, if Chicago trades down with one of those two teams, the Giants can have an avenue to trade up, and Chicago can trade down for the second time. It's not out of the realm of possibility. But focusing on Caleb Williams, he is a Mr. Make It Happen type of player. Absolutely has a blue chip prospect sort of label on him right now. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see what happens in the NFL, but he is my favorite quarterback in this draft. Is he, the most polished? Probably not, but he is Mr. Make It Happen. There are a lot of conversation between him and Drake May, and a lot of people are saying that in structure, Drake May be the better quarterback. I can tend to agree with that, but Caleb Williams is a guy that I think can work in structure. Just because Drake May be better within a structure, I think Caleb Williams is just as capable and just hasn't been able to show it that much yet because of USC constantly putting him in position to try to be the hero and play hero ball and try to get the win. We know that during this season, there were a couple of times where Caleb Williams wasn't able to pull out the win, and there was the crying and there was the attitude that a lot of people didn't like, but he played his ass off. He's a guy that will lay it out on the line and make some insane throws, insane plays that will absolutely drop your jaw. He is the best quarterback in this draft. At number 2 on my big board, I have Drake May. Now, I know there are a lot of people thinking that he is another Daniel Jones. I don't know if it's because he comes from North Carolina and the colors there, I mean, the colors aren't very similar to Duke, but I don't know. A lot of people just see Daniel Jones in him because of how he looks. I think that is definitely playing a factor. I don't think they play the same in the slightest. I think Drake May has that, sneaky athletic factor to him, but I think he does air the ball deep. I think he does take a lot of shots. He makes some acrobatic throws. I think Daniel Jones is a little too conservative. I just don't think their play styles are very similar. I love Drake May's accuracy. And listen, one thing we can't say about Daniel Jones is that he can throw the ball. He is fairly accurate within short to intermediate range, and he can zip that ball, perfect spirals every single time. That's what I do like about Daniel Jones. But Drake May has a great arm, has a great spiral, has a great accuracy, and has a little bit of athletic factor to him as well. And he has proven to be a winner. Now, again, there is a lot of risk factor. A lot of people are scared because he is a North Carolina kid, and we know Sam Howell is trying his best with the Washington Commanders and has been somewhat successful. Has a problem with turning over the ball. And also there is Mitch Trubisky. I don't know if it's the number 10 and the North Carolina thing. A lot of people just don't like him because they think he's the next Mitch Trubisky. That may be true. Who knows? I really don't like to judge a quarterback based on the school he came from. If you look at the top quarterbacks we have in the NFL right now, the best in the NFL came from Texas Tech. The second best came from Wyoming. Lamar Jackson, I don't know where he falls on you guys' pecking order, but he comes from Louisville. Okay, there are quarterbacks who come from non-quarterback schools all the time and wind up being one of the best to do it. So that being said, I'm not going to hold that against them, but Drake May is number 2 for me. Moving on to number 3 on my pecking order, big board, we've got Jaden Daniels. Now, all 3 quarterbacks are 1, 2, and 3 on my list. That is because I am prioritizing quarterback in this draft. I think it's going to help the Giants the most out of any other prospect in this draft at any other position. I just think it's a better move to try to move forward. I don't know if the Giants are going to have another opportunity next year or the year after that to go ahead and get another quarterback this high in a draft and this talented. The top 3 quarterbacks in this draft are very, very talented, and they can easily be the top quarterbacks in any other draft. So I really, really want to make sure we come out of this draft with one of these 3 guys. Obviously, I can't be in control if that happens, and I'll have to trust Joe Schoen in whatever move he does. But Jaden Daniels is my number 3 prospect for the Giants. He is a developing learner. Now, I believe he's been in college football for about 5 seasons now, maybe 6 seasons. I'm not sure. But he is picking up the quarterback position extremely, extremely quickly. I looked at his tape from 2020 all the way now to 2023. In 2020, he was a quarterback at Arizona State, and he was not even close to being a draftable prospect. Comes to LSU, completely changes his accuracy, his mechanics, throwing motion, everything like that. His mobility factor has always been there, though I was considering actually putting Jaden Daniels at number 2 because I feel like Jaden Daniels, it needs to clean up his accuracy still, but has a great arm, fantastic spiral, great touch on the ball. I think he's shown a lot of promise as a passer where he can be developed, and I think Brian Daboll will do his thing. He is supposed to be this quarterback guru. It's the reason why the Giants hired him in the first place, is to develop at the quarterback position. I think Jaden Daniels would be a perfect fit for that, and I think he adds a great factor in the running game as well. There is a concern with Caleb Williams and Drake May that if you draft one of these two prospects, you may be losing that extra added piece in the running game at the quarterback position. They can run, they are athletic, but what college quarterback can't run? It's very rare to find a quarterback that can't run coming out of the draft. They're young, they've got good knees, good legs, they're still fresh, okay? But as years go on, they just aren't runners anymore. So looking at, Caleb Williams and Drake May, they could be guys that just stay in the pocket, maybe run and do what they have to do with their legs when needed. But Jaden Daniels is a guy that reminds me a lot of Daniel Jones on the run. A lot better, a lot more athletic, a lot more side-to-side quickness. But I'm talking about being used in the offense as a runner, where he'll bounce to the outside and find nothing, start running for the first down, and what do you know, there's 30-40 yards down the field that he's able to pick up with his legs. That's something that we'll probably lose with Caleb Williams and Drake May, but we will gain it, if not have it even better running game at the quarterback position with Jaden Daniels than Daniel Jones. Next up, we have Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, this isn't a big board on who is the best players in the draft. You'll have to look at big boards that don't consider teams. It's just a straight up big board for the NFL draft. But the big board for the Giants has Marvin Harrison at number 4. Now, if the Giants do not consider, I'm not in Joe Shane's head, but if the Giants do not consider quarterback in this draft to be a thing, and Drake May and Caleb Williams are gone, and the Giants trade up and they say, hey, we're trading up instead of Jaden Daniels, we are trading up for Marvin Harrison, or a wide receiver for that matter, I would want them to take Marvin Harrison Jr. He's the best wide receiver in this draft. But I'll tell you what, I will tell you right now, where the next player we're going to talk about can make him run, give him a run for his money. But Marvin Harrison, to me right now, is just the better receiver. I mean, he runs decently good routes. I'm not going to say they're fantastic. He's not the best route runner in this draft, but decently good routes for his size. He's a 6'4 receiver that has excellent speed, excellent start and stop ability, a true number 1 receiver. His catch radius is absolutely insane. He takes over games. I think Marvin Harrison is going to come into this league and just dominate in his first year as a rookie wide receiver in the NFL. At number 5, I have one of my favorite prospects in this draft, and I'm geeked up about it. I'm not gonna lie to you, Malik Neighbors, man. I turn on the tape and he's the whole package, man. He is the absolute package. 6 foot, 200 pounds, isn't the biggest wide receiver you've ever seen, but man, he can do it all. So far, out of the wide receivers that I've watched, he's the best route runner, absolutely smart, has great IQ, and knows where to get around on a defense. Doesn't have to run the most crispest routes. He just knows where to be and how to be there. He's a big play threat and a guy that is a rack run after catch king, man. This guy, when he has the ball in his hands, he is absolutely magic. He will take a 10-yard dig or a 10-yard curl and make it into a 40-yard play. That is how dangerous Malik Neighbors is. That's honestly an edge that he has over Marvin Harrison Jr. Well, I don't think he has that ability to, really make a lot of moves, running after the catch, because Marvin Harrison is a bigger guy, and his size is a little bit of a con to him too with the run after the catch. But Malik Neighbors is so shifty. He is clearly one of the best playmakers in this draft. It sucks that I have him 5th on my big board, because I'll tell you what, if the Giants did not need a quarterback and Marvin Harrison is way out of reach for us, Malik Neighbors would be number 1 on my big board, absolutely, positively. But however, the circumstances are where they are, and I have to put him at number 5, even though he's one of my favorite prospects in this draft. Next, we have what I think is one of the smartest wide receivers in this draft, Romeo Odun. Not only, when you hear the word, he's so smart, you would think that, he just uses his wits over his, physicality. He's not physically gifted, but he's very smart. No, that is not the case whatsoever. Romeo Odun isn't the crispest route runner ever, but part of being a route runner is just being very, very smart. He totally just deconstructs a route in order to fit what he's up against, and he's so good at it. I mean, Romeo Odun is fantastic at it. He adjusts to the ball very well. Great catch radius. I mean, he is an absolute gem for Washington, and like I said, it is very hard to call him the third best wide receiver in this draft, because he can clearly be the best wide receiver in any other draft besides this one. That's how talented these receivers are in this draft. Romeo Odun can clearly be number one somewhere else, but here he is, I think, the clear number 3, but he is going to, get drafted by a team and play great. I don't think he's definitely going to be worth his pick wherever he's chosen at in the top 10. 6'3", 215 pounds. He is clearly bigger than a Malik Neighbors, right? Almost the size of Marvin Harrison Jr. And he goes up and gets the ball, man. He has that, 50-50 ball, go up and get it type ability that Marvin Harrison has. And he's just a very smart wide receiver like Malik Neighbors is. I mean, he adjusts his routes very well. If you look at just a couple of games that he's played in where he could run a crisp 15-yard corner route, but he either cuts it off or he rounds out his route to get there faster and make sure he's, beating the zone before the zone can catch up to him. I mean, he's very good at it. Very, very good at it. Next, we're going on to the last position, and this is 7th on my list, Joe Alt at the offensive tackle position out of Notre Dame, and he is my number 1 offensive tackle in this draft. Now, I made a whole video on the positions that the Giants need to avoid in the first round of this draft, and it was these 2 players in with the offensive tackle position. Joe Alt, we'll talk about him first, and I'm not going to get too much into it. You guys can check out my video on why I don't want to draft an offensive tackle in the first round, but if the Giants have to do it, this is my big board. You got to cover all bases, and if the Giants have to take an offensive tackle, it would be Joe Alt for me. I just think he's just a little bit more cleaner. I just think he's a little bit better with his hands. I do have a little bit of issue with Olu Vishanu, and we'll get into it when we actually talk about Olu, but let's talk about Joe Alt for now. Joe Alt is extremely athletic for his size. I believe he stands at a whopping 6'8", 325 pounds. That is an absolute monster at a tackle position, and assuming that the Giants will put him at right tackle, I think his technique is very good. I think he does maintain a good kick slide. He keeps a wide base as well, and one thing that differs from him and his counterpart Olu Fashanu is his arm extension, his use of arms. I think Olu Fashanu is probably one of the better pass protectors in this league, but I don't think he's going to get away with it too much in the NFL. I think Joe Alt will be just fine. I like Joe Alt in the run game as well, but in the pass game, I like his extension of arms, his punching, and keeping a inside leverage with his hand technique. So I do like Joe Alt better in this draft. And let's now get into Olu Fashanu, the last player I have on my big board. And I have a lot of problems with Olu Fashanu. I'll be honest with you. Is he athletic as a tackle? Yes. Usually if you find a tackle that is a first round prospect, obviously he's going to be very athletic for his size, and he is athletic for his size. A lot of people are calling him the best pass protector in this draft. I can agree with that, but I do think that he does a lot of things that he gets away with that I don't think will fly in the NFL. I think he's going to have a harder problem handling speed rushers, guys that use a lot of speed to power. I think he is very strong, and I think he handles the bull rush extremely well. He has a great anchor at his disposal, but I think his hand technique could get a little better, and that's probably the biggest thing I have a problem with when it comes to Olu Fashanu. He tends to catch his players, and every rush turns into a bull rush because he kind of just grabs them up, and I think he's going to get away with a lot of holds. He did get away with a lot of holds in college. I just don't see him being as good as Joe Alt right now as a prospect. That can very well change in the NFL, but I do like Olu Fashanu and Joe Alt. I don't want to say that they are bad prospects by any stretch of the imagination, but they are guys that I wouldn't consider over a wide receiver or a quarterback in this draft. Now, that is it. That is my big board for the New York Giants in the 2024 NFL Draft. Do you guys agree or disagree with my list? If you agree or disagree, doesn't matter. Leave it in the comment section below. Give me a reason why. Give me your own big board going into this draft. You can list as many players as you want, rank them off, and I'll check them out in the comment section below. That being said, leave a like if you guys enjoy, subscribe if you guys are new, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Woo!